As of last month, it is illegal to hold and talk on your phone while you drive in every state in New England except for two, Maine and Massachusetts. Earlier this year, a Mass Inc. poll found that 79% of the people in Massachusetts support a ban on handheld devices behind the wheel. So why haven't we done it yet? Well, the state Senate passed the bill last year, but the House shot it down because of concerns it might lead to more racial profiling in traffic stops. Earlier today, a rally was held outside the Massachusetts State House, urging state reps to act before they go home for the year later this month. It was sponsored by a slew of groups, including Text Less, Live More. It's an organization that was founded after the death of Merritt Levitan, an 18-year-old Milton Academy graduate who was killed by a distracted driver in Arkansas. I'm joined now by her parents, Rich and Anna Cheshire Levitan, who spoke at today's rally. It's good to see both of you. Thanks for being here. I hate to start this way, but tell us what happened to your kid.
5 years ago this month, Merritt had graduated from Milton, and she wanted to do a cross-country bike trip before she went to Colgate. She was going to Colgate. And so she started in South Carolina, and within, 10 days, Rich?
About
Can't
10
remember.
days, yeah.
They had biked 900 miles. They had crossed the Mississippi, and as they were going into Arkansas, in McCrory, Arkansas, she was hit by a distracted driver. 7 of the 12 were hit. She was critically injured. This was July 2nd, 2013. She was medevaced to Memphis, and she died the next day.
How did you make a decision? Whenever I talk to somebody like you two, Ron Bersani, whose granddaughter Melanie Powell was killed by a drunk driver and campaigned like you for ages to change the drunk driving laws.
Right.
How and when did you decide, instead of dealing with our grief internally, we're going to be willing to come on shows like this and describe how this kid we love died? How do you make that decision?
It's a tough one, Jim. I mean, we huddled as a family, or as a younger sister, younger brother, to get our feet back on the ground, to deal with our grief, to live again. We put our time and our energy into Text Less, Live More, into building out that platform to become a national organization.
And this is pretty simple, what you're proposing. I assume most people don't say, didn't we ban texting while driving? We did ban texting while driving in 2010. It took us a while. So what are you proposing on top of that? What do you want the state legislature to do?
So 2010, it's the ban on texting. The iPhone was just coming into being in 2010. Since then, there are thousands of apps that you can distract yourself with. Snapchatting, FaceTiming, streaming, whatever. And so it's an antiquated bill. You can't enforce it because enforcement doesn't know if you're texting or you're plugging in your GPS or you're doing whatever. So
a cop can't even really stop it. The number of citations is pathetically low in this state.
It's not doing anything.
In the 7+ years since
people are dying.
They don't know what somebody is using their phone for. What we're advocating for is for the legislature to pass the bill that the Senate passed about a year ago.
Which includes this language that I know Byron Rushing in the House is demanding, for lack of a better expression, one of the House leaders, that the police keep some data on the stops by race to ensure that racial profiling is not. So, I mean, I hate to say something is so simple, what's the problem? So, what's the problem?
Well, so valid concern about racial profiling. Valid concern.
By the Byron Rushings.
By the Byron Rushings, by the Jeffrey Sanchez's, by other members of the House, nobody wants racial profiling. Valid concern. Recently, the language that Sonia Chang Diaz
in the Senate
introduced
into the Senate bill is what Byron Rushing is now satisfied with.
As of today.
And addresses his concerns.
So why isn't the House just doing it? I mean, I assume law enforcement doesn't want the burden because I don't know this for a fact, they're assuming if I'm keeping the data, then there's a presumption that we must be engaging in racial profiling. Is that the argument against this thing?
So, I don't believe so. I don't believe
so what is the problem? What is the argument?
It needs to get out of Ways and Means. Ways and Means, the budget needs to be finished, right? That's important.
But they can do this with all due respect. They can do this in 30 seconds if they want to do it. So there's some reason they're not doing it. What do you think is the reason?
I think that it hasn't been brought to their attention as aggressively as it has this past couple of weeks when people like us come out and speak our truth and tell our story.
Obviously you know far better than I, that there are
Right.
studies that say actually what you're focusing on is the problem is not the problem, that the problem is talking to begin with, whether you're talking into a handheld or a non-handheld. What do you say to those social scientists? And you seem to have contempt in your face.
I had a
for
little bit
those.
of contempt in my face for that. I think the reality is
Right.
there are all kinds of ways to be distracted when you're behind the wheel. Talking on the phone, hands-free or not, sure, it's a distraction, but looking at your phone, changing the YouTube channel, FaceTiming, having a device in your
Snapchatting.
hand while you're operating a 4-ton vehicle going 50 miles an hour, which 4 seconds you go 100 yards before you look up again because you're looking at that device.
There was a study, you know this better than I was obsessed with texting while driving, and I'm in the spirit of full candor.
don't do it.
I did it. I don't do it
Good.
anymore.
Good.
And I'm embarrassed that I did it because I had read the Virginia Tech study that you
Right.
probably memorized that texting
Right.
while driving is as
Right.
dangerous as driving while drunk.
Absolutely.
There's no question about that.
Absolutely. Right.
And the governor supports this. Just for
Yes,
people,
he
I want to be
does.
clear.
Yes, he does.
Charlie Baker was not crazy about this at first. He
Right.
supports
He
this
pivoted,
now.
yeah.
The Senate. So essentially, what you need between now and the end of July is a vote in the State
Vote.
House of Representatives.
Yes.
Yes.
Which would probably mean a quick conference and then
pass.
ultimately, there are, beyond what you're looking for from this thing, auto manufacturers, if they cared about this, I assume could deal with this too. They're cutoff devices, I know, because
Yeah,
you
now
can
there
pay
are.
$500 in your car and
Yeah.
get one that
Yeah.
essentially, once you start going over
Yeah.
whatever X miles an hour, wouldn't let you use your cell. Is any progress being made on that front?
Yeah, I think so. When we first got into this, unfortunately, we thought there are three prongs to this. There's education awareness, cultural mores, and then automotive and legislative, right? So everyone is moving that way. Massachusetts just hasn't moved quickly enough. Technology is catching up. 16 states have already passed hands-free. It's up in front of North Carolina. It's up in front of South Carolina. Massachusetts.
Great progressive states like that can do it. And then-
State of
Georgia did it.
just
You know,
enacted their law.
I started this by saying I don't quite understand, even though I admire the fact that you made the choice you made to talk about
Yeah.
what happened to your daughter Rega. The other thing I don't understand about the two of you is I read, I think it was in a piece by Bella English, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
that you went to prosecutors and asked that the charges be reduced against the young man who killed your kid. Why do that?
Well, we met with him. We met with him privately.
The man who was the driver.
The young man
We met with the young man and his parents.
and his parents.
And?
They came up to Boston.
We wanted to know the young man. We wanted to understand who he was because we know that Merritt, our daughter,
Right.
who's not with us anymore, would not want another young person's life destroyed
Right.
because of a tragic mistake that was made. It wasn't illegal what he was doing in Arkansas at the
it
time.
wasn't illegal.
So
It was-
is he doing anything to help this? I mean,
He's
We hope
done
so.
hundreds of hours of community
Yeah. He is.
service talking about what happened to him because he was distracted by his phone. Yes.
And it's pretty clear if laws like, I'll state the obvious, if laws like this existed
Right.
across the country,
Yes.
people like your daughter would be alive
Of course.
that
Of
Yeah.
course. It's
graduated
100%.
from Colgate
right.
or whatever she
Be
might be
working now.
doing now.
Right.
So the impact would be
100% preventable.
dramatic. And
Yeah.
before you leave, what you're
Yes.
looking for is people, if they are on your side, to call the leadership and their own state
their
rep
own
and
rep.
say, please do this before July
Bring it
31st
to
and
a
we can
vote.
all go home
We have
happy.
20 days.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Congratulations on your work, and I
Jim.
wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you very
so
much.
much, Jim.
It's
We
good to see you
appreciate
again.
it. Yes.
Lots of luck to you
Thank
and your
you.
family. I appreciate
Thank
it. If you'd like to learn more about their organization, visit their website. It's textlesslivemore.org.